Hey guys. Give me a second to figure out what I'm doing. Okay. I'm going to be penciling a page here from United States of Murder Incorporated, or versus Murder, page 18. It's actually an 8-panel page, but I'm going to expand it to 9 panels, and I'll explain why when I get to this one panel. One of these days I'll do this and I've done it a couple times where I've read the script out to you as I was going into it. But this time I thought I'd give it a little bit of thought ahead of time before I started the video, which I want to try and keep it a little more raw for you guys in the future instead of planning something out ahead of time. Anyway, so I guess I'll just lean into this. This is in a bowling alley scene. I think earlier some of the pages I posted were also in this same sequence, and it is Valentine speaking with FBI agents about what's going on. So I'm working in Clip Paint Studio, and these are the pencils at this stage. I've got a folder, what I call my reference folder. It's like my master reference folder, and in that folder I have everything from textures, Zipatone, files of buildings and cars and other photo reference, and also pre-drawn out panel grids, so that when I have a panel like this, it's going to be a 9-page or 9-panel page, I already have it kind of measured out. I just plop it in here. I lower the opacity on it, and then what I do is I'll create another layer and then use the tools here to make my own borders. I probably should just make it so that these so that the grids that I already have done are actually ready for print, but I have them as lower reses, so I'm going to have to just create a page and make them ready to go, so I don't have to do this. Like, it doesn't make sense that I have this pre-made template and then I have to then go ahead and do this new layer of stuff. So bear with me while I do it. But this is part of what eats up the day, or eats up a page. Is, you got to do these little details. So I have this set on down here. These are different ways that the selection area will react. So right now I have it on something that will deselect. So I selected this area. Now anything else I do in here will deselect. So I'm going to draw a line through here. See, now that area is deselected. Same thing here, deselected. If I remember, when I'm done with this page, I will save this grid pattern, so that way it's good to go without having to recreate it every single time. So I typically use, so I'm going to outline the selection. Same thing as stroke in Photoshop. The line width is 22 pixels. That's just kind of visually what I think it looks like. I mean, so you can use anything, but I use like 22 for whatever reason. I gotta make sure it's black, so I'm going to outline the selection. Sounds like I got somebody outside. I'm thinking it's probably just the post office. Anyway, so here we go. I've got my grid done here. I'm going to lock this grid, and I'm actually going to draw on top of this stuff. The reason for that being, when I start inking, when lines go outside of here, I'll be able to easily erase it without having to fix the panel outlines. So, alright, so I've created this new layer. This layer is going to be my pencil layer. I typically don't label these, but I'm going to do it for you. I'm calling it pencil 1 because what I do is I pencil very lightly, and then I'll make another layer over which I will then continue to kind of tighten up, and you'll see how it goes. So this pen I'm using here, I keep the opacity pretty low, so that way, it looks like pencils or whatever, right? Don't mind the dog. Anyway, so let's start. All right, this first panel. Actually, it would be really cool if you guys could see the scripts. These are Brian's scripts. So I'm just going to read this first panel out for you. So, well, typically when you read a page, I think, is the page really broken up into moments, or is a page one fluid, or sort of multiple moments that flow into each other? This is all happening with them sitting down. They're all sitting on these benches in the bowling alley. So we're not moving around a lot of places. So that's what I mean by is it something fluid on the scene, or is this taking place in basically one little area? And this is taking place in one little area where they're talking. So instead of reading out the whole page to you, I'm just going to read out panel to panel to you. So there's two agents, FBI agents are Glass and Bell, and they're talking to Valentine in the bowling alley. So panel one, Glass says it as it is, toasting Valentine with one of his very own cold beers. Bell is thinking, okay, we're going down this road now. And Glass, our intel. Again, this is another part of the government we have, so we have to do our own intel. He really thinks, he's said privately, that getting rid of New York will, quote, heal the sins of all men. The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, so I have to fit this much dialogue into this area up here. So typically, like, I know this is pretty large, so I'm kind of mentally blocking out this area here for dialogue. So because the amount of dialogue here, I know this is going to be some small figures. So even before I'm thinking about like the layout, before I'm even thinking how to lay out this panel or what angles are going to be, the first thing I do is I look at the amount of words, the amount of word balloon space that's going to be needed, and automatically I know it's going to be like a pullback shot. I could probably do like a really close up as well of her face, but I think that this scene or this panel needs to have everybody in it because they're talking about the larger picture, talking about what the president thinks of New York, which is under mob control right now. Hopefully you guys are reading the book so you kind of know what I'm talking about. United States versus Murder Incorporated, the continuation of United States of Murder Incorporated. Coffee is important. All right. Okay, so he's toasting with one of his own beers. So actually, I guess, let's see. I've already established pretty well what people are in here, so I am going to go with kind of this closer shot. I'm thinking head and shoulders with the beer bottle sort of in the foreground, like he's lifting it up. I'm going to attempt to see if we can fit in some sort of reflection on here of Valentine, who he's talking to, but we'll see if that works out. Who knows? So because I know he's sitting already, he's sitting in this like bench, I should pull up the previous pages. That would help in the future. Okay. So I know he's already sitting, which dictates the body posture, right? Because he's not standing. But this is all I really need right now. So I'm going to move on to the next panel. I don't finish everything. I don't do all of one panel and next panel. I do everything kind of in these waves. So this is the first, the layout of it. Second panel is Valentine is drunk and has literally nothing to lose. He says, and that's what our goal is now. So this seems like a good close-up. There's going to be a lot of close-ups on here. This is all I need. And this shot is similar to the page before. Actually, let me see if I can pull up page 17. So I'm kind of emulating this or taking off from these last couple shots of the conversation. Oops, spoiler. And you can see the positions of where they're at in these top two panels here. That was the other grid that I was using. Alright, so now we're at the third panel here. Glass thinks Valentine's wife has no idea what they're supposed to do. I don't know why it says Valentine's wife. Sometimes I think they're just a weird type of thing. Belle suddenly wants to leave. You guys want it this way, we should go. Okay, now we need a wide shot. Because we're talking about what Valentine or the Glass is thinking, that Belle is reacting, and that this is all aimed at Valentine. Check my text message here. Try and keep that quiet. Okay. So this is fun because it's easy. This is just a wide shot. I'm going to do a wide shot that has a bit of perspective here. Oh, this is tricky. Okay, Glass is speaking first. Glass is sitting back here. So I'm going to have to change this shot. You also have to consider the speaking order. Glass is speaking first, and then Belle is speaking. Belle is the female agent with longer hair. So instead of doing a shot where I'm looking down between them, I have to kind of put the camera so that it's going to be behind them a bit, so that Glass speaks first, then Belle speaks, and they're talking about Valentine, who will be here. So again, the first thing I'm really doing is I'm thinking about the speaking order and the word balloon space. Most of my letterers, I think, are pretty happy that I'm pretty good at that. Sometimes there's always going to be some screw up or something that I don't see. So anyway, I'm just going to leave that panel like that, nice and light. I don't need to really get to the details yet because I want to stay focused on the storytelling and the flow. So in the fourth panel, Valentine puts out a cigarette and he puts it all out on the line there. Val, I don't think it's like way past. Don't you think it's like way past time for things to change? So if he's so Brian says in the script here, he puts out a cigarette, and he puts it all on the line. So you think about what you've seen this in pictures before, or just conversations that you have. If somebody's a little fed up and they're punctuating it with putting out a cigarette, putting down a drink, closing a book. So it's this sort of action that's backing up what he's saying. So we established earlier that he was smoking, so I don't have to worry about it too much in these two top panels. So I'm going to really punctuate up in the foreground. This will be some nice strong foreshadowing, foreshortening. This is going to be a tricky shot. Did I leave enough room for... Word balloons will be kind of tight in here, but it'll work. So one thing I'm thinking here is I've kind of got a kind of a straight on. It's a quarter shot here. There's a quarter shot. Now there's a wider shot. I'm thinking instead of doing this sort of load to the cigarette and him leaning forward, I think I want to redo that. This is going to be really tricky. I might even need to do some photo reference for this kind of shot. So I want to be low looking up. Cigarette going out. going to be looking directly at the cigarette, but it's like a low looking up, kind of forcing this perspective. And this is going to be tricky. We'll see. All right, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to use some photo reference for that. So what I'll do, let's take a quick look so we can find putting out cigarette. Let's see if we can find something here. I mean, I could just do a close-up of Val's hand. That would work. But I kind of like to see his face in the shot as well. Yeah, I'm not finding anything here to help me, unless I was doing a close-up shot of the hand. So I might end up just taking a photo later. But at least now I've got this other really like some good variations in angles and shots here. One thing is weird is I'm sort of flipping where he's at, so I almost entirely through these scenes have him on the right side of the page and them on the left side of the page. Kind of sort of flipping it here a little bit, so let's see. Even though this is not probably what I'm going to end up using, I'm going to flip this over. It's one of the reasons why I like working digital. It's like you can really fix like that a lot easier. All right, so let's check out panel 5. Glass and Bella can't stop themselves. Bella is standing up, frustrated. She wants to leave. Glass, I don't know what you're talking about. How old are you? Now, this might all seem really weird to you because I'm just reading kind of panel to panel and stuff, but obviously I've read the script ahead of time. So I have this sort of vague subconscious images and understanding of the flow of the story that you kind of have to read the script first. So I'm sure you'll find this happens to yourself too. So it might seem like really weird as I'm reading this out to you ahead of time, but I understand what's going on. All right, so anyway, so she's going to stand up. I think we need another wide shot here because it's like the 3 of them, right? I'm going to do something really fun. I'm going to flip things around. Like instead of doing, there's a couple like straight-on shots you could do, a really wide shot looking down. I'm going to do a shot I haven't done yet, which is from behind the bowling pins. So we're in a bowling alley. And so far, I've kept all the bowling alley stuff pretty far into the background. Now, it might be hard with that one in the middle, so I've got my pen programmed here, so I hit this button, and it's the back. It's the undo button. So say if I do a bunch of lines like this, or like I just did with the bowling thing, and all I have to do is click, click, and it just goes away nice and quick. Let me see, if I put those 3 bowling pins there, I'm going to have one directly in the middle that will just block the shot too much. So these are really ugly bowling pins. I'm going to get in a little closer. It's kind of neat having the scene take place in a bowling alley too, because this is sort of a game that everybody's playing. It's a game of, mind reading, psyching each other out, that sort of thing. Alright, so Belle stands up. Definitely have to see her hair so we're sure which character is sitting and which one is standing. Glass is still here. That's all I need. I'm going to need to touch this up a lot, even though this is just like the little layout. I can tell already space-wise I'm going to need to do something like select these characters, then I'm going to just make it a little smaller. And again, this is the advantage of penciling digital. Sometimes I find for me that I work digital too long, it really starts to wear down on, I don't know, what the connection that I'm having with the paper, the connection I'm having with the actual art, and I have to pull away and break open a sketchbook or do some layouts on actual paper. There's all kinds of advantages for doing it digitally, but sometimes there's just something aesthetic and something sort of subliminal. You can't really explain why you're not connecting to the art that day. So I do a lot of switching up my process. Anyway, so here we go. We got a pretty interesting shot, which is this the bowling pins in the foreground, and immediately I'm thinking one of two things. Either the characters are all going to be in silhouette, which they probably should, because with my style, to show much detail here on the figures, they're so small, I'm going to have to use like really thinner line work than I normally do. So I think what I'm going to do is just keep them in silhouette, and the pins will be lit up in the foreground. The other way to do it, if you have a more detailed style, is to just darken up these guys, right? And you can still tell that they're bowling pins, or you will be able to. But I'm going to go, actually that kind of looks cool too, doesn't it? Maybe if I just put a shadow at the top of the pins. Yeah, because then, yeah, I like that. Again, working digitally, you find all these neat little stuff. It's easy to throw something out and experiment. Let's see, so we are on panel 6. Valentine sits back and just thinks about it. Quote, or Valentine says, we're going down in the shit together, all of us. I just thought it might be time to talk about it before we do. At least we could say to ourselves, we tried all the things. We crossed all the I's and shit. This is one of the things I love about Brian's writing. There's a lot being said that's not being said here. I know you haven't read the rest of the script, you don't know the context, but basically what's happening here is he's saying maybe we should team up together. Me, Mafia, you guys, FBI, we both hate the president, what's going on, so maybe we should take him out or find some way of bringing him down together. But he's not just coming out and saying it. It's all in the subtext. Anyway, this feels like a cool shot for me to sort of have Val lean back a little bit. I also need to establish some objects near him, which were established earlier, but I need to remind people, which is his jacket is next to him, and in his jacket is his gun, because that's going to come into play again. So I think a good way to do that, kind of have him lean back. Arms are going to be up on the couch. I'm going to indicate a bit of the jacket here. He's sort of laid back. And I also like that this offset shot, because when you do something off-center, it indicates something's not quite right, or that there's something subliminal or something not being said, because it's not like right straightforward in your face. Usually it's very straightforward in your face shot. Is something that's on the nose. It's literal, usually. So doing something off-kilter indicates there's something else going on. And I think in this case that he knows they're either talking about some form of treason of some kind, or that things are going to go really bad, which they will. Spoiler. Okay, now originally this page was only 8 panels, but I turned it to 9 because there's a moment where the two FBI agents disagree with each other. And when there are characters who are on opposite sides of something, or they disagree, I like to put a line in between them. In Powers, you would see a lot of Dina smoking a cigarette, and there would be a line of smoke going up in between Walker and Dina. And it's just a sort of, subliminal visual to show that there's a separation. So I'm going to take that a little further in this, and I'm going to turn this 8-panel grid into a 9-panel grid and use the panel as a separation between the two characters. So we are on panel 7? Yeah. Bella is officially up on her feet and angry and leaving. Glass, not so much. So this is the panel that I'm going to split into 2. Belle says, well, you're right, shit's broken, needs to get fixed fast, but this isn't how it gets fixed, and we're not the people to do it. So I'm going to put, since I'm splitting this in half, I need to have something continuing between the two panels to show that even though the panels are split, they're actually the same panel. So I'm going to continue with what we did with Val, put him slightly off center. He's got his shoulders up here over the chair, over the couch. And you see how bad the proportions are in here and stuff? It doesn't matter. I just need the shot. I just need to block the shot, as they say. So I'm going to put Agent Glass here. He's slightly looking up, and his partner, who's leaving. You see his shoulder also overlaps the panel here. And then there will be some other shapes in the back, just to sort of, bring these two together. So Bella's up. I'm going to have her fixing her jacket slightly. All right, far from perfect. It doesn't need to be. It's just give me an idea of the storytelling going on here. And then his last panel, panel 9, which is actually panel 8 on the script, says Valentine doesn't stand up. He just looks at her, challenging her. Yeah, says who? All right, so this is more of a straight-on shot because he's being. It's not really a threat, but he's being. He's challenging her, right? So you want like a close-up, straight-up shot, and he doesn't say much. There's only going to be 2 little panels here, so I can get a nice semi-intimidating shot. I say semi-intimidating because if you know this character, he's not very intimidating so far. Val is a little bit of a spoiled mama's boy, and he's lost in this larger world. He's really faking it, and he's a tough guy, but he's getting there. He's figuring out where his balls are. And normally this goes by a lot faster, but I'm stopping to talk and read things out and all that. And I try to keep this stage going as quickly as possible. I don't need to spend too much time making sure that the drawings are pretty or anything like that. So I'm going to lower the opacity on this. It says pencils 1. This will be pencils 2. So on this level, I'm still using the same sort of light opacity, but now I'm going to tighten up all these drawings. Typically, this will be tight enough, and there'll be some problem spots, like some hands and things like that, that I'll need to make another layer and tighten it up again. But typically what I'll try to do is from here, got enough information on these figures to just do 1 pass of pencils, and I can go right into inks after this, because there's a lot of little stuff that I can tighten up and fix directly in the inks. His mouth is a little funky, but yeah, I'll fix it while I'm inking. And I'm still kind of sketching on parts of this and still sort of finding it, So you've seen a lot of these videos before, which is sort of time. I usually do this stuff time-lapse because there's not too much to say here, because I'm just drawing. I'm going to attempt to have Val's reflection in this. I don't know that's going to work out. I'm going to try. Right now I'm just indicating it. So then this becomes a process now for each panel. I'm going to do that. I'm going to end it here though, because it's probably best served as a time-lapse video, or another video in the future, because this could take a little, probably only about an hour. But at this point, because I'm just going over the drawings, I don't feel like I have much to say that's going to be useful to you guys. I could talk a little bit about the setting, like on this pen that I'm using to pencil. I have it set so that the harder I push on it, the darker the line gets. I should probably adjust that to be even more extreme than it is right now, because then it acts more like an actual pencil. Yeah, so basically this is it, and then every now and then I'll look back at the script just to check on what kind of facial expressions they should be having here. It's a pretty intense conversation, so there's not like a wide variety of expressions going on. It's mostly all intensity. I've also got my pen set so that I can zoom in and out by pressing this button in the front. That makes it really easy. And then I like to look at it smaller like this. Like I could tell like the mass on his head here isn't quite right, and that's probably because I didn't actually pencil out like his full head. I just kind of penciled it out right here, so it's got a little bit of proportion problems, but I'll figure that out later. Yeah, so I'm just gonna keep going into this and tightening it up, and then I'll make a separate video for the inking, and yeah, and then we'll talk about that then. I think that's it. Thanks.